Hey there, welcome to One Take, powered by backers. Right?
No judging.
Yeah.
No judging.
The millennials are really changing that.
Is charm. No.
All success begins with desire.
I feel like I'm on fire right now.
OMG, baby, tell them.
Hey there, welcome to One Take, powered by backers. Justin Fox. I'm joined by special guest Toufic Adlouni. Toufic, thank you very much for joining me here today.
Thanks for having me.
I try every time with that name. We've had how many calls? I try. It's Toufic, right? Toufic.
Toufic.
Yeah. It should be easy, right? But
it's like Tupac. It's like Tupac with a feek. That's how I get
Tupac with a feek. Toufic. So Toufic, thank you very much for joining me here. So you are. I'll just do a quick little intro so everyone knows who you are. You are essentially you're a lawyer, obviously. You're an entrepreneur, so we'll talk a little bit about that. You're a blockchain enthusiast, and you wrote here in your bio, which I think is interesting, a cat skeptic. So maybe we'll want to unpack what that means a little bit, but I don't know if you wrote that in your bio, but that's what we've got for now. So
I did, yeah.
You did? Okay. So you are the founder and basically founder, right, of Reno & Co., which is Canada's digital law firm, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. What that means, just so everyone's paying attention. That means crypto. That means blockchain-based technologies and sort of the regulations around it. So why don't we jump in and ask you, Toufic, what is it that you do? Give us kind of, how about this? I'm going to take a step back. Choose your own adventure. I haven't done this in a couple of these. You tell me, where would you like to start? Talk a little bit about your backstory, where you came from, or kind of where you are right now.
Yeah, either or really. I guess you teed it up for where I am right now, so I don't mind going down that road. So yeah, I think we're digital in two ways. We're digital in the sense that we're working in the digital economy, and we're digital in the sense in the way in which we're providing legal services to our clients, right? So in terms of the digital economy, we work primarily with blockchain and digital asset focused businesses. That comes into a lot of different varieties because it's actually a ever expanding space. But it essentially means companies that are offering different types of services on the blockchain, different tech providers that are building technical stacks on the blockchain, different types of infrastructure projects that are building protocols, platforms, mining facilities, etc. And these days, a lot of work in what I'll call the creator economy, and where kind of blockchain and content creators are kind of meshing into it. Obviously, NFTs is kind of the big one that comes to mind, but there's that's just the tip of the iceberg on kind of the ecosystem that's being created. And look, what we try to do is very simple, right? We try to go into companies that are in these spaces, and we essentially try to give them, I would say, strategic legal advice from a very business kind of oriented manner to help them do what they want to do, right? Which is that they want to scale their businesses, right? No one goes into, I would say, the digital asset space saying, can't wait till I hear my lawyers talk about National Instrument 31103. Right. It's like no one wants to hear about Section 8.5 exemptions, right, or what have you, right? What they're looking to do is they're just looking to scale and run their business and change the world in a very small and unique way. So what we're here to do is really to help you kind of reach those goals. And I'm not here to just draft up documents and send them your way, right? I'm not here to kind of tell you what's the standard practice on what's going to be done, which is going to cost you an arm and a leg to get it done, right? I'm here to kind of offer you creative solutions from best practices of being in this industry almost exclusively for a number of years, and to also use kind of the tools, resources, and networks that we have to kind of assist you in reaching those goals, right? So maybe if a classic law firm will say, well, you got to go down this classic path and it's going to cost you $160,000. It's going to take you 4 months or 5 months. I'll try to look at it in a much more holistic way and say, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about partnering with these guys? Have you thought about going into these jurisdictions? Have you thought about limiting your business scope to this or that, right? And essentially try to reach the same goals for the companies, but without having them go down this extremely regulated and cost prohibitive path. Because a lot of these folks, right, are they may be venture backed, they may actually have very successful businesses, but they also may be a little cash strapped as well, especially the startups. So yeah, that's essentially kind of the general scope of what we do. And yeah, like I said, we try to use the best of technology that we have on the table to kind of help do that. We've developed our own kind of tech stack as well to help automate documents, which you can check out on renoandco.com, because we want to be innovative at the same time, just like our clients. So that's kind of our mission statement.
That's cool. So what's kind of your background? What got you in? So obviously Reno Co is in essence somewhat of a startup itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys are what, a couple of years in, right? How many years have you guys been in business now?
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3?
Yeah,
okay.
3 years next month.
Okay, cool. Well, happy anniversary. Congrats.
Thanks.
That's awesome. We're actually coming up for backers 3 years in October. So October 1st. So in around the same. So tell me a little, actually, before we get into that, Cat Skeptic, what's that? What is that about? Are you skeptical that they exist, or that they're...
I'm just skeptical that they're just decent pets, animals, just that they have any type.
You got some cat hate in you. You got cat hate in you? You're a cat hater? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I have a whole, I do, should say I did it once, but I'm planning on doing it again. But I did once a open mic night.
Okay.
I love comedy. I love comedy, and I love doing. So I have a whole bit which I'm gonna do quite soon. Just me.
You want to give it to us? Go. You know what's funny? Hey, about 15 years ago, I did one night of stand-up comedy. I got invited as the headliner for Mike Bullard. It was actually the main guy. And all I got paid was free beers for the night. So I met this guy. It was sort of random. He's like, we need an opening act for this show we're hosting next week. I was like, okay, sure, I'll try it out. But so give us a couple jokes. Give us your cat joke. Go, lead it up.
Oh yeah,
not to throw you on the spot. Yeah, go. Give us your
little teaser. But before that, on a side note, for any entrepreneur out there, if you want to really hone your public speaking, go do stand up.
It's crazy. Like I just froze for a second when I did it. But yeah, it's like anyways, give us a little tidbit.
Yeah, a little tidbit. I don't know. It's like essentially cats are poor roommates, right? Like if you have a problem with your roommate, you would, let's say if they never took out the trash or whatever, you'd probably go and communicate with them like, hey, you should take out the trash like a little bit more often. It would be helpful. Right. Cats have shitty communication skills. The moment that they find something wrong with you, let's say you're out of the house too long, they'll just shit on your bed. Like, is that like a healthy roommate way to like communicate with your, they'll be like, you walk in and your cat's taking a deuce and it's looking at you like, hang out with me more.
That's interesting. Yeah. So cats are definitely not great communicators. Yeah. They shit in their house anyways, right? They shit all over the house too, right? In the little litter box.
Well, they to show their displeasure with you, they'll like pee on your bed or do something.
Are they trying to take possession? I think there's a little bit of a territory thing there as well.
Oh, that's
Like-
another part of my bit. It's that like,
Yeah.
you know, is it us who own the cats, or is it really the cats who own us?
Yeah, well, I mean, literally,
You know-
you're like cleaning their shit, filling their bowls with whatever the food and whatever.
if
right?
yeah, if like they probably like looked at like all the other species, like, you know, 7,000 years ago, and I'm like, okay, what species do we think is really gonna make it? You know, like that they're gonna make it so well that we could just like live off their coattails. And they saw these Egyptians with the pyramids, and they're like, yeah, I think these guys are gonna.
These guys
do
are gonna
Next
do
thing
it.
you know-
They got
Yeah,
potential,
next thing-
right?
Yeah, next thing you know, they're fed, they got taken care of, you know, they have their poop scooped up, right? They got
Yeah.
all this, they don't have to worry, they don't have to hunt, you know, they're essentially just, you know,
Living
they
the life.
think we're their servants. Yeah, they were like, hey, human, you know, we picked you guys to be our pets, to take care of us. Why aren't you doing such a good job?
Yeah, maybe there is a little bit of maybe they're the aliens that came down and like we're like, hey, let's just live with these humans and get taken care of. Interesting. Okay, let's talk about blockchain. Let's talk about nothing but cats. Let's talk about blockchain, specifically technology. Where, because I think I really wanted to get into this, pick your brain a little bit about, because obviously you work in the space, you're an enthusiast, you understand a lot, you work with a lot of different companies. I'm sure you see a lot of the different ways in which it's being utilized. You know, everyone understands, well, I don't even think everyone understands any of it, so I'm not even going to make assumptions. Let's start from the beginning. Just give me your kind of thought process on what is blockchain. Let's for the audience that's watching, like, let's go way back. Let's go to the, you know, what is blockchain? Like, I mean, people have heard of Bitcoin, right? What is blockchain?
Right. So blockchain as an innovative technology has, I would say, a couple of fundamental basics. It's essentially a lot of different pieces of technology that has been incorporated into one. Most importantly is an ability to cryptographically store data in a way in which is immutable, right? And it is immutable based upon, that's one of the innovations. The other innovation, I would say, is based upon a network and decentralized effect, where you need certain protocols, or I would say certain kind of parameters to be met for anything to change upon that network, right? So, example, Bitcoin essentially is a variety of data that's encapsulated in a cryptographic block that creates an immutability, which is extremely high. It's the SHA-256 protocol, as you may know, which, by the way, could potentially be cracked by quantum computing.
Computers, right?
Yeah, but
We'll get there when we get there.
yeah, we get there when we get there. And at the same time, you know, I had a fun debate with a friend about this, and I was like, you know, is quantum computing that scary? Number one, we're actually quite far away from it. But if it ever does get there, well, you know, our whole kind of security systems all fall apart, right? Every password that was ever made could be hacked.
Right.
So, you know, essentially the whole digital economy falls apart. But so yeah, that's essentially it. The transactions are registered on a block, and data is stored there in an immutable fashion. And then that immutable fashion is done, you know, not only cryptographically, but in a way in which it is set up and organized on the protocol, in which allows it to be confirmed and registered on a variety of different chains of these of these pieces of immutable data, hence creating the term blockchain. And you have essentially a method to store, keep, and transfer data in a way that is cryptographically stored and immutable from outside kind of interference. So that is kind of the initial innovation there.
Right. So the immutability, just for people not, basically can't be changed. It's non-changeable. It's secure. So it's distributed amongst multiple nodes. And now that because it's distributed and there's that proof of work or proof of stake or whatever kind of protocol you're using that allows for only the correct information to be passed on to the next block, essentially, right? Or to be mined in the next block. So there's definitely huge advantages from you talk about digital like currency with Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, and the cryptographic is kind of that, it's basically 256 character. It's a 1 to the 256 or 2 to the 256, right? So it's like almost infinite number of possibilities. So a lot of people, I mean, with backers, we're using it from a transactional ledger. Basically, you've got you tokenize the asset of a company, and now you essentially create a tokenized version of what would be a typical share certificate. You put it on this transactional ledger, that's on the blockchain, that's now immutable, transferable, transparent, secure, all those kind of different cool things, very easily kind of interoperable at times. What are some of the other technologies or use cases that you've come across that maybe are a little, different or, varied from the, sort of transactional financial use cases, right? What are some of the, examples of use cases that you've seen that are maybe interesting to you or that were, kind of have pretty interesting real world applications?
So I think there's a couple. I think they're all around storing data.
Right.
I would say is kind of the main general crux of it, and your ability to store, transfer data that is secure. So there's obviously a lot of abilities to kind of branch into that. That goes into kind of data management for different types of companies, right? I think audit management as well. I've seen certain people, for instance, e-signature platforms that allow you to verify certain information through the blockchain instead of necessarily having to read full documents or to authenticate signatures, right? You have kind of supply chain management abilities, right, in which you can then create immutable information with respect to different types of kind of goods going back and forth as well. You can create kind of smart QR codes, which allow you to kind of scan and register certain blocks, and then those can never be scanned again. Right. Kind of register certain things in that type of way. You have, I would say, nice innovations in the green space to create kind of green credits, or essentially carbon credits.
Carbon credits, yeah.
That was obviously fairly interesting and not in the financial space. There is, I would say creating virtual reality skins, in-game skins, right?
Right.
I would say
so sort of like the collectible side, right? That's kind of on the NFT the sort of collecting in-game, virtual reality type things, right?
Collectible sides, certificates of certain things, I would say that can then have a type of fast kind of moving nature within a digital ecosystem.
Right.
Things like, for instance, digitizing the deed to your house and then be able to kind of use that to get a mortgage online can be done in a matter of seconds. With these kind of blockchain protocols. I would say most of its benefits will come from financial infrastructure, but I think that is really where the value comes from, creating kind of payment systems, creating different reward programs, creating different kind of infrastructure for payment rails. A lot of it's happening in sports as well, where you're going to be able to create a variety of interesting products through sports branding, in which you can kind of allow fans to interact with their sports teams in a little better, in a more interesting way, and allow them to actually buy, sell, and own certain of these assets that are linked to their club in some way or another.
Right.
Yeah, the non-financial stuff is, I would say, less, because at this moment, kind of everything is financial, right?
Right.
At a certain sense, like, right, even, and this is one thing that I guess people don't quite understand, is that, even when you are going online to, let's say, an e-commerce website, and it doesn't even need to be hosted by one of these big kind of companies like Shopify or Amazon, but even if you have like a regular kind of like templated website, how is your payments being processed, right? Where is that money going? Where's that money being held? How is your Visa interacting with the Stripe that's interacting with my bank account? Right? And it seems so seamless, but in reality, it's actually built off of a number of legacy systems, which, though seem quite quick from the naked eye, do create several potential pitfalls from the very nature that it's built on these legacy systems. So yeah, does blockchain have a role without, outside of the financial world? I would say yes, but even everything that I've just mentioned before, between collectibles to supply chains to green carbon credits, right? There is a baseline financialization of those kind of products, and that's just because that's kind of the world that we live in today, right?
Definitely. It's interesting you talk about Visa and Stripe, and I mean any PayPal or any of these other payment processing. You talk about merchant service providers. And here in Canada, you got like a Moneris and stuff. They're very much. We talk about the decentralization of finance, right? So DeFi, right? And that's kind of where a lot of people see blockchain going, is taking out all those middlemen, right? All those entities where literally you can have peer-to-peer processing, right? Peer-to-peer, end-to-end processing of payments or processing of whatever it is, right? So you literally eliminate a lot of the costs, a lot of the time, a lot of the infrastructure that's needed to process those things. And now it's just done instantly on the blockchain in a secure, immutable, transparent way, right? That's kind of where, I think a lot of people, maybe you agree or disagree with this, but I think a lot of people overlook the real value of what Bitcoin offers at its base, right? It's a currency, but it's also a store of value where if you extrapolate 30 years from now, let's say, everyone in theory, if it goes the way some people want, everyone will have a digital wallet, and in that wallet they'll hold Bitcoin. And if you want to do something or buy something, or Bitcoin might be, I'm just giving you one example, might be that you say, hey, give me 0.001 Bitcoin for this product, service, whatever it is. And then I easily can send that to you instantly. No bank, no middleman, no payment service provider, nothing. I send that value directly to your wallet. And so now the unbanked, as they say, which is 2/3 of the world, can now have access to a value, and then they can transfer it easily digitally, which is sort of like where, that's kind of the epitome of decentralization. But that's kind of where it goes. What are your thoughts on that? You see Bitcoin becoming that, or where do you see Bitcoin going? What are your thoughts sort of on more the Bitcoin side?
Look, on Bitcoin, I think it's definitely going that way, right? Like essentially we have kind of the rollout of the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network at the moment is really providing kind of that, overlay protocol that allows for transactions to happen much quicker. At our firm, we've recently gotten our Lightning wallet to be able to receive kind of payment in Lightning. And, we thought it was quite easy. And I see that, speaking to certain, Bitcoin thought leaders on this point of time, is that we're going to start, loading our accounts with sats, which is kind of the short term for Satoshis, and then being able to then quite quickly pay for goods and services in sats. And then it's quite easy to actually add vendors on on these payment processors and get things done. And for maybe day-to-day consumers, it may not seem like a huge deal, but for anyone who's running their own business, it is. And I'll give you an example. We had a client that wanted to pay a bill, right? And the bill was fairly fairly big, and she essentially had to pay it in a couple of installments, right? Because she kept maxing her amount. Maybe you may see this with e-money transfers or paying vendors, and it's been a bit of a pain in the ass. Or you have to go, and if you're doing any payments to kind of the CRA or any other person that can be added as a payee on your bank, or there's this process that you have to go through to add them on. Whereas with Lightning, it can be just as easy as scanning someone's QR code and sending, and if that QR code is added to their bill, you can, because it can actually create invoices, you can scan it and you can send that money almost instantly.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the way of the future. And people may say, well, Bitcoin's volatile and it's not really a decent kind of medium of exchange because of its volatility. To that, I say this. I say the price of Bitcoin, the graph of the price of Bitcoin to Bitcoin is always one, right?
Right.
So in reality, the price of Bitcoin is only volatile insofar as you look at it from the eyes of its exchange with CAD or USD.
Right.
But in reality, if you start doing this exercise, when you look at everything in the price of Bitcoin, the world really changes in a variety of ways, right? A great example is, for instance, looking at the S&P 500 between, valued in US dollars and looking at it valued in gold, right?
Right.
The inflationary tendencies and the quantitative easing that's happened in the US market since the financial crisis in 2008 has created, whether rightly or wrongly, right, a image to us that when we look at the S&P 500 denominated in USD, that we've seen kind of a almost continuous growth up, right? Whereas when it's denominated in gold or Bitcoin, for instance, you see a much, much different picture, right? And
against Bitcoin, it's probably gone negative, right? I mean, in its growth, right? I don't know the correlation to gold, but I would think against Bitcoin, you would see a negative growth.
I believe so. The gold one pops into my mind, but just knowing both kind of general trends, I think you would agree. Like, let me see if I could see an image here to kind of show. Yeah, like it definitely is kind of the historical correlation is actually quite negative, especially come a certain timeline where vis-a-vis Bitcoin, it's essentially just went
in the past 10 years.
Yeah, it's so there's been a huge kind of I can share my screen here if you want. I'm looking at something that BitMEX did, where they did a review of the S&P 500 against gold and is it still denominated in USD here?
For the S&P. So one of the things that you just mentioned, it's interesting. If you're going to pull that up, so to those that are watching or following the conversation, interesting. I believe it too, and I think you just touched on it.
It's disabled. I'll send you this article.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I'll throw it up. I'll overlay it on the video. But because of the volatility of Bitcoin right now, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to justify trading it almost on that day-to-day if you're getting back USD, or if you're getting back a service that's valued in USD, because you don't know. Well, I guess long-term, you're expecting Bitcoin to significantly increase over the value of USD. So it's often difficult right now for people to justify buying and selling things in Bitcoin, right? I think that's why I said in 30 years, there is that option. This is where a lot of people, I think, talk about the Doge coins and these kind of like nominal tokens where there's almost no real projected massive growth because there is no cap on the limit of coins. So there's an uncapped number, right? So you can have an infinite number of Dogecoins, just like US dollars. So they can maintain it at that arguably $1 valuation just by sort of similar to the way the Fed does with their monetary policy, right? Adding more, taking more away, right? So there's sort of different ways that they can do to manipulate Dogecoin versus Bitcoin. If anyone ever wanted to learn more about that, I suggest you go down that rabbit hole. But so your thinking is, do you think people will start valuing Bitcoin against Bitcoin? And what is the time frame to get to that, I guess?
Yeah, I guess it really depends on the general critical conditions of our financial infrastructure and how it pans out, right? And I think it really boils down to a couple of maybe slow-moving trend lines, which can or cannot be exacerbated over time and can be potentially cataclysmic. Now, do we know? Probably some of the smartest economists on the planet don't know. So I am really not coming from a place of knowledge, but more of a place of questioning.
Right.
We essentially have and I'll use the United States as an example because it will most likely set the trend from in the general global economy. But we essentially have a discrepancy between import-export flows in the United States that has continued over time for a very long period of time. Again, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but at that level it is. You have this debt to currency flow from the United States to other areas such as China, which is ever increasing. And then you have these inflationary pressures through the quantitative easing of the currency mixed in with the deflationary pressures that is being created by the ever-increasing US federal government debt, right? Which can potentially cause, right, quite a cataclysmic collapse of the US greenback, right? The US greenback is essentially held up because of its infinite demand, right? And it sounds very weird, but essentially because of the greenback's position and its relationship with US debt, right, which is something everyone needs to kind of understand deeply here to kind of get what I'm saying, it creates this infinite demand on US dollars, which have to be issued out on the basis of issuing out government debt. So the debt of the US government is financed by this demand. If there was a potential way, which it could happen, where there could be some sort of relinquishing of that demand, where the US dollar no longer is the main method of the main payment rails of the global economy, right? You essentially have this potential massive collapse. Now, does it have to get that bad for people to wake up? I don't think that it does. I think most people now living in major cities across the world are seeing that the value of their dollar is going much less far vis-a-vis the basket of goods in which they want to purchase. Right. Now, we obviously have the consumer price index, and that kind of is this illustrative picture of what people want to buy, but it doesn't really capture what people truly want to buy, right? If you want to have a family and buy an apartment in New York City right now on a middle, even upper middle class job, right, where you're making like $160,000, good luck, so to speak. You're still renting, right? If you want to invest in kind of any of these dividend creation stocks, like Apple, etc., on a middle class wage, is that even possible to you, or are you so priced out from these types of investment vehicles? That's truly what inflation is. And as long as inflation is outpacing, and again, I want to correct it by saying relative inflation to the actual consumer, right? Because what you want to buy in the future is not necessarily what I want to buy, right? Your kid may want to just have pizza and beer and live in your basement for his entire life, and maybe the price of pizza and beer.
I hope not.
I hope not. But I'm just saying.
They're 5 and 7 right now. I hope they have bigger aspirations than that. But so what are your thoughts on Kathy Wood from Mark Investments on the whole deflation, right? So sort of the thought that inflation has happened, and now we're looking at potentially deflationary, at least in the short term, like 3, 6, 9, 12 months, we're going to start seeing some deflationary where things are going to start to pull back. What are your thoughts on that? We can get into a whole other, you know what? Tell me what your thoughts are on that just quickly. We don't have to get into a whole economic discussion on where the economy is going. I think Bitcoin, we both agree, long-term has a lot of potential. Blockchain also lots of potential from a technology perspective, right? Innovative sort of database, however you want, a data transfer perspective, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I haven't really read Kathy's kind of comments on the deflationary pressures, but would be happy to read
check it
them.
out. There's some
Yeah,
interesting,
check it
there's
out.
some interesting reads on, or you can go down the rabbit hole of YouTube. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze here, but anyways, yeah, it's your smoke. It's blowing in my face. It's about making me sneeze. No, I'm kidding. Kidding. Hopefully, is it enjoyable? No. Is there something a little wacky in the tobacco? No, we're just
No, it's no wacky. It's just nicotine, and it's a bad habit.
I had a guy on here the other day smoke a little bit, so it's all good. It's all good. It's legal in Canada, so
Yeah.
cool. Well, Toufic, I really appreciate you joining me here. Check them out, Renault Co. In Quebec, but you guys are right across Canada, right? So you've got, I think last time you told me about 16 lawyers, right?
So we have 10. We have 10.
10?
We have 10 practitioners, but we're up to 16 in general staff.
Okay.
And we have folks that we work. We have attorneys called in New York and California as well, and across Canada.
Okay.
So and we do quite a bit of work as well in the Caribbean through kind of our partners there.
Right.
Specifically in Bermuda, because like I said, we're not here just to kind of offer you very limited set of potential solutions, right? People don't come to their lawyers for problems, they come to their lawyers for solutions. So we try to really take a holistic approach to it, and that's why we practice, only in one type of law, which is kind of the digital asset space, more or less. And we've kind of developed this expertise so we can kind of be able to offer like these holistic solutions that have been built up for a number of years through best practices to our clients. So.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Toufic, that's awesome. Sounds like good success. We didn't talk much about your entrepreneurial journey. Well, maybe we should do a round 2 on this, but
I would love to. My entrepreneurial journey is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's a
Do
funny.
You want to give us a quick story of that on it before we jump off?
Oh, quick story. I don't know if I have a quick story to delve into.
Why are
but
cats
maybe a
bad
little.
roommates? No, just kidding.
Oh no, yeah. But maybe a sneak peek is.
Okay.
There are obviously many difficulties in any entrepreneurship journey, right? And I thought maybe one of the biggest difficulties at the beginning really was impostor syndrome, because lawyers, clients look at me and they see I look like a relatively young guy. I dress in a young way, and lawyers a lot of times, I would say they equate with experience and years of practice. So, because I'm not 60 wearing a suit, it was very challenging, I would say, to start a law firm, basically, just with a year under my belt of practice, so to speak. However, there was some neat ways that I was able to overcome those challenges at the beginning, and would love to speak to you, maybe anyone who's listening about kind of what that is with imposter syndrome. And now, with our position where we're scaling at such a rapid pace, I'm really experiencing the trials and tribulations of having a scale up, as they call it.
Right.
And this has been a very, very interesting kind of experience. And I'll have to tell you, weirdly enough, I think the scale up part was even harder than the startup part.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's that next step, like being able to go from sort of where you have, a little bit of success to now actually replicating that success. So that's interesting.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, Toufic, yeah, we'll have to do round two. We'll continue our conversations behind closed doors. But I thank you very much for joining me today. From where exactly are you in Quebec? Are you in Montreal?
Montreal.
Right in Montreal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Right. Whereabouts in Montreal?
I live in the Plateau, but my office is downtown.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I've been in
Yeah.
Montreal many times. St. Catherine's Street, Rue St. Catherine. Yeah, isn't that
Yeah.
that's the party street, right?
Well, that's the shopping street. Yeah.
Oh, is it shop? I thought it was
Yeah.
pubs and stuff along there. No.
There's a couple of pubs here and there, but it's
Yeah.
more shopping.
Okay. I went to the President's Cup out there at the Royal Montreal or whatever on the island there.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. It was
Nice.
like high fiving Tiger Woods. But anyways, that was many years ago. Cool. Toufic, thank you very much for joining me. Everyone else, Justin Fox, Toufic, Adlouni, One Take, powered by backers. I will see you guys all again very soon. Hey there, welcome to One Take, powered by backers. Right?
No judging.
Yeah.
judging.
And the millennials are really changing that.
Is charm. No.
All success begins with desire.
I feel like I'm on fire right now.
OMG, baby.